I, 24F, am at my breaking point with my boyfriend Ryan, 26M, and I don't know what to do anymore. We've been together for 8 months, and for the most part, things have been really good between us. He's sweet, funny, and we have great chemistry. But there's one massive problem that's getting worse by the day. Ryan is completely obsessed with my ex-boyfriend Marcus, and I mean obsessed. He brings Marcus up in literally every conversation we have, no matter how unrelated the topic is. It's gotten so bad that I can't even talk about what I had for lunch without Ryan somehow making it about Marcus. Some background: Marcus, 25M, and I dated for 3 years and broke up about 10 months ago. It wasn't a dramatic breakup. We just grew apart and realized we wanted different things. We stayed on decent terms and occasionally text about mutual friends or when one of us needs to pick up something we left at the other's place. Very normal, mature post-breakup stuff. When Ryan and I first started dating, I was completely honest about my relationship history. I told him about Marcus, how long we dated, why we broke up, and that we occasionally stayed in touch, but it was purely platonic. Ryan seemed fine with it at first, and even said he respected that I could maintain a friendship with an ex because it showed I was mature. But somewhere around month 3 of our relationship, Ryan's attitude completely changed. It started with small comments and questions about Marcus that felt like innocent curiosity. What kind of music did Marcus like? Did Marcus ever take you to this restaurant? How tall is Marcus? Normal stuff that didn't really bother me. Then it escalated to more invasive questions. Did Marcus make more money than me? Was Marcus better in bed? Do you think Marcus was more attractive than me? I told Ryan these questions made me uncomfortable and that constantly comparing himself to Marcus wasn't healthy for either of us. But instead of stopping, Ryan became more sneaky about it. He'd work Marcus into conversations in ways that seemed casual, but were clearly calculated. If I mentioned liking a movie, Ryan would ask if I'd seen it with Marcus. If I talked about a restaurant I wanted to try, Ryan would ask if it was the kind of place Marcus would have taken me to. The worst part is that Ryan has somehow turned Marcus into this perfect, mythical figure in his head. He talks about Marcus like he was some kind of Superman who I'll never get over. He's convinced that I'm still in love with Marcus, and that I'm only with Ryan as a placeholder until Marcus wants me back. None of this is true. I care about Marcus as a person because we shared 3 years together, but I'm not romantically interested in him at all. I chose to be with Ryan because I genuinely like him and see a future with him. But Ryan can't seem to accept that. Last week, things reached a new level of crazy. Ryan and I were having dinner at home, and I mentioned that my coworker had gotten engaged. Ryan immediately said, "I bet Marcus never would have proposed to you anyway. He probably knew you weren't marriage material." I was so shocked I didn't even know how to respond. Ryan had never met Marcus, knew basically nothing about him, and was making cruel assumptions about both of us. When I asked him why he would say something so hurtful, he said he was just being realistic about my past relationship. 2 days ago, I found out that Ryan has been stalking Marcus on social media. I caught him scrolling through Marcus's Instagram, looking at photos from months before I even met Ryan. When I confronted him about it, Ryan got defensive and said he was just trying to understand what kind of person Marcus is. I told Ryan that his obsession with Marcus was unhealthy and that if he couldn't stop bringing up my ex in every conversation, our relationship wasn't going to work. Ryan promised he'd stop, but literally the next day he asked me if Marcus had ever given me flowers because he wanted to make sure he was giving me better flowers than Marcus ever did. I'm exhausted. I can't have a normal conversation with my boyfriend without him making it about someone I used to date. It's like Ryan is more interested in competing with Marcus than he is in actually being with me. I love Ryan, but I can't live like this. Has anyone dealt with a partner who is obsessed with their ex? How do I make him understand that this behavior is destroying our relationship? Update, 6 hours later. Thank you to everyone who responded. Reading your comments made me realize how abnormal Ryan's behavior really is. I've been trying to be understanding because I thought he was just insecure, but you're right that this level of obsession isn't normal jealousy. A few people asked if I've tried setting firm boundaries. I have multiple times. Every time I tell Ryan his behavior is inappropriate, he apologizes and promises to stop. But then within days, he's back to bringing up Marcus in completely unrelated conversations. Someone asked if Ryan has access to my phone. He doesn't have my passwords, but he's definitely been looking over my shoulder when I text. Last week I caught him trying to read my messages while I was in the bathroom. When I confronted him, he said he was just checking the time. The most disturbing thing I didn't mention in my original post is that Ryan has been trying to change himself to be more like what he imagines Marcus was. He's asked me what cologne Marcus wore, how Marcus dressed, even what kind of car Marcus drove. When I refuse to answer, he gets frustrated and says I'm being secretive. Yesterday, Ryan showed up at my apartment with a new haircut that he said was more sophisticated than his old style. When I asked why he changed it, he said he wanted to look like the kind of guy you'd choose over Marcus. I'm starting to think Ryan needs professional help. This isn't just insecurity, it's an unhealthy obsession that's affecting his ability to function in our relationship. Update 2 to 4 days later. I tried to have a serious conversation with Ryan about getting help for his obsession with Marcus. It backfired spectacularly. I asked Ryan to come over Sunday night so we could talk without distractions. I told him that his fixation on Marcus was beyond normal jealousy and that I thought he should consider talking to a therapist about it. Ryan completely lost it. He started yelling that I was gaslighting him and that his concerns about Marcus were completely rational. He said he'd been doing research and that I was naive about Marcus's true intentions. That's when he pulled out his phone and showed me something that made my blood run cold. Ryan had been catfishing Marcus on a dating app. He'd created a fake profile using photos of some random woman and had been messaging Marcus for weeks, trying to get him to say something about me. The conversations were insane. Ryan had been trying to get Marcus to admit he still had feelings for me, or that he was planning to ask me to get back together. When Marcus didn't take the bait and just made normal conversation with what he thought was a potential date, Ryan became convinced that Marcus was being strategic and playing the long game. I asked Ryan how long he'd been doing this, and he said about a month. He showed me dozens of messages where he'd been trying to trick Marcus into revealing his true intentions toward me. I told Ryan that what he was doing was stalking and that he needed to stop immediately. He said he was protecting our relationship and that I should be grateful he was keeping tabs on Marcus. I asked Ryan to leave and told him I needed time to think about whether our relationship could continue. He refused to go and kept insisting that we needed to deal with the Marcus situation together. When I threatened to call someone to help me get him to leave, Ryan finally went. But he kept shouting that I was choosing Marcus over him and that he wouldn't let Marcus destroy another relationship. Since Sunday, Ryan has been calling and texting me constantly. The messages are getting more erratic. He's convinced that I'm already back in contact with Marcus and that everything he did was justified because he was right about Marcus all along. I'm genuinely scared about what Ryan might do next. Update 3 to 1 week later. Things have escalated in a way I never saw coming. Ryan didn't just stop at catfishing Marcus. He's been actively trying to sabotage Marcus's life. Yesterday, Marcus called me out of the blue. He said he'd been getting strange messages on social media from people claiming I'd been talking badly about him. Someone had been contacting his friends and coworkers, pretending to be my friend, and spreading rumors that Marcus had been stalking me and that I was afraid of him. Marcus was confused and concerned because he knew none of it was true. He said his boss had even pulled him aside to ask about the situation with his ex-girlfriend because someone had called their office claiming to be worried about my safety. I immediately knew it was Ryan. I told Marcus everything about Ryan's obsession, the catfishing, the stalking. Marcus was shocked and said it explained a lot of weird things that had been happening to him lately. Marcus told me that someone had been creating fake profiles on multiple dating apps using his photos and messaging women with inappropriate content. He'd been getting angry messages from women he'd never talked to, saying he was a creep and a stalker. But the worst part was what Marcus told me next. Someone had been sending packages to his apartment. Weird stuff like women's underwear and love letters, supposedly from me. Marcus had been throwing them away, thinking it was some kind of mistake or prank. I realized Ryan had been trying to make it look like I was obsessed with Marcus, not the other way around. He was trying to destroy Marcus's reputation and make him look like a stalker, so that I'd be forced to cut contact with him completely. I told Marcus I was going to confront Ryan, but Marcus said he was going to the police first. He said what Ryan was doing was harassment and identity theft, and that he was worried about what Ryan might do next. I agreed that we should both file police reports. This has gone way beyond relationship drama. Ryan is actively trying to destroy someone's life because of his own delusions. Update 4 to 3 days later. I filed a police report on Monday, and Marcus filed his own report the same day. When we compared notes, we realized the scope of Ryan's harassment was even worse than we'd thought. The detective assigned to the case said Ryan's behavior constituted cyberstalking, identity theft, and harassment. They were able to trace the fake profiles and messages back to Ryan's computer and phone. Ryan was arrested yesterday morning at his apartment. When they searched his place, they found printed screenshots of Marcus's social media going back months, detailed notes about Marcus's daily routines, and drafts of fake messages Ryan had been planning to send to more of Marcus's contacts. They also found a notebook where Ryan had been planning to escalate his harassment campaign. He'd written down Marcus's work schedule, the gym he goes to, and places he hangs out. Ryan had been planning to show up at these places to confront Marcus about pursuing me. The detective said Ryan had been building up to something more serious. The fake packages and messages were just the beginning. Ryan had been planning to make it look like Marcus was genuinely stalking me so that I'd have to get a restraining order against him. Ryan's plan was to destroy Marcus's reputation so completely that I'd have no choice but to cut all contact with him. Then Ryan could be the hero who protected me from my dangerous ex-boyfriend. The scariest part is that Ryan's plan was actually working. Marcus's boss had started questioning his stability. Some of his friends were avoiding him, and he'd been getting harassed by women who thought he was a creep. Ryan is being held without bail because the judge considered him a flight risk and a danger to both Marcus and me. His arraignment is next week. I can't believe the person I thought I loved was capable of this level of manipulation and cruelty. Update 5 to 2 weeks later. Ryan's arraignment was last Friday. He's been charged with cyberstalking, identity theft, harassment, and something called criminal impersonation. His lawyer tried to argue that Ryan was having a mental health crisis, but the judge wasn't buying it. The prosecutor said Ryan's behavior showed clear planning and intent, not mental illness. The fake profiles, the detailed notes, the systematic harassment campaign. It was all calculated to destroy Marcus's reputation and isolate me from him. Ryan pleaded not guilty to all charges. His lawyer is apparently planning to argue that Ryan believed he was protecting me from a genuinely dangerous ex-boyfriend, but the evidence shows that Ryan knew his claims about Marcus were false. The detective told me that Ryan had been researching Marcus for months, long before he started the harassment campaign. Ryan knew Marcus wasn't dangerous or stalking me. He created that narrative to justify his own behavior. Marcus and I both have restraining orders against Ryan now. Ryan isn't allowed to contact either of us directly or indirectly, and he can't post about us on social media or create fake profiles. The weirdest part is that Ryan's harassment actually brought Marcus and me closer as friends. Going through this together made us realize how much we'd missed each other's friendship. We're not getting back together romantically. We broke up for good reasons and we're both different people now, but we're rebuilding our friendship. I feel stupid for not seeing the signs earlier. Ryan's protectiveness and concern about Marcus were actually red flags that he was capable of this level of obsession and manipulation. Update 6 to 1 month later. Ryan took a plea deal last week. He pleaded guilty to cyberstalking and harassment charges in exchange for the other charges being dropped. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail and 2 years probation. As part of his probation, Ryan has to attend mandatory counseling and isn't allowed to contact Marcus or me for 5 years. He also has to pay restitution to Marcus for the damage to his reputation and the costs of dealing with the harassment. The prosecutor told me that Ryan showed no remorse during the plea hearing. He maintained that he was trying to protect me and that Marcus was manipulative, even though there was no evidence to support his claims. I testified at the sentencing hearing about how Ryan's behavior had affected me. I told the judge that Ryan's obsession had made me question my own judgment and ability to trust people. I said that what Ryan did wasn't love. It was control and manipulation disguised as protection. Ryan's lawyer tried to argue that Ryan's behavior was driven by love and concern, but the judge said that love doesn't involve destroying someone's life based on imaginary threats. The judge said Ryan's behavior was calculated, systematic, and cruel, and that he'd shown a disturbing willingness to destroy an innocent person's reputation to serve his own interests. Ryan was led away in handcuffs. He looked at me as he was leaving and mouthed, "I'm sorry, but I don't think he actually understands what he did wrong." Final update. 2 months later, Ryan was released from jail last week after serving 4 months of his 6-month sentence. He's now on probation and supposedly attending court-ordered counseling. I know this because his first act after getting released was to try to contact me through a mutual friend. He wanted to explain his side and make things right between us. I told our mutual friend that I wasn't interested in hearing from Ryan and that any attempt to contact me would be a violation of his restraining order. The friend said Ryan seemed to think that once I understood his motivations, I'd forgive him. It's been almost 6 months since I filed the police report, and Ryan still doesn't seem to understand that his behavior was wrong. He still thinks he was protecting me from Marcus, even though Marcus never did anything to warrant Ryan's harassment campaign. I've been in therapy since this whole thing started, and it's helped me understand how Ryan's manipulation worked. He slowly convinced me that his obsession with Marcus was normal jealousy, then escalated to making me feel like I was the problem for not appreciating his concern. I'm dating someone new now. His name is David, and he's nothing like Ryan. When I told him about my past relationships, he listened and then moved on to other topics. No obsessing, no comparisons, no need to protect me from people who aren't threats. It's refreshing to be with someone who trusts me to manage my own relationships and doesn't see my past as something to compete with or control. The whole experience taught me that obsession isn't love, even when someone claims they're acting out of care and protection. Real love involves trust, respect, and allowing your partner to be their own person. Marcus and I are still friends. We're both in healthy relationships with other people now, and we can laugh about how Ryan's harassment actually helped us reconnect. It's ironic that Ryan's attempt to destroy our friendship ended up strengthening it. I'm closing this chapter now. Thanks to everyone who helped me recognize that Ryan's behavior wasn't normal and encouraged me to take it seriously. Your support helped me get through one of the scariest experiences of my life.